Hi everyone! On this rainy morning, let's work on some designs together. I love designing merch and I love music, so today we're making a merch concept for a record label that I like. The record label is fueled by ramen. So, because they produced some music for bands that I really liked when I was younger and I liked the name. So first I wrote down some ideas. The main focus is ramen, because ramen is just simply the best. So the general idea is that ramen fuels music production. I also wrote down some things that could help add visual elements, such as cup noodles, a messy and cluttered desk, maybe some pens for writing music or lyrics, chopsticks, and spilled noodles. Just to give an idea of the general illustration, because I wanted it to be like a late night production session. I wanted to give that feeling. So let's go and make the sketches. As always, I use my iPad and Apple Pencil for this. It's for me the easiest way to illustrate, and I work in Procreate. After making a super rough sketch, I'm refining it and doing the outlines. This honestly took forever. There were so many details in here, but at the same time it was also kind of therapeutic to work on. I wanted to add in the brand name quite a few times, as if the noodles are like owned by them. I don't know, I always like doing that in my work, as you might have noticed. And it's really easy to adjust typography in Procreate, so for example making it rounded around something. So I took advantage of that, so I didn't have to do that in Illustrator. And later I thought it would also look more natural that way, if it's blended into the actual illustration. But I ended up drawing one bowl of noodles that is overflowing and kind of tipping over, and just one cup noodles, along with a bunch of messy things around it, like chopsticks and soup vegetable topping packets and all of that, and pens. And I also had the idea eventually to add a cassette tape to really signify music very clearly. I think it brought my vision to life quite well. Because it should give the idea, like I said, of like a late night music writing recording session. Like one of those nights where you later realize you created something very iconic. That's the feeling I wanted to create. And later I went back in to add some shading and make the illustration a bit bolder. Otherwise I feared it would look a bit too fragile if it's just outlined and then printed on a garment. So usually I just use this sort of line shading, but I also worked on blocking out some bigger parts to create more contrast. And there were quite a lot of details in this illustration, honestly a lot more than I usually do. I think also when I'm illustrating on my iPad, half the time is spent just undoing my brush strokes. That's why my left hand is always kind of hovering there, just waiting to undo things. Okay, the illustration is done. This is what it looks like now, and I'll import it into Illustrator. First, I'll turn it into a vector by selecting the illustration, then going to Image Trace and clicking Silhouettes. Then I adjust to get the desired effect. You can just adjust each value and see if it looks good. And if you're happy with it, you can click on Expand in the top menu, and then you've created a vector of your illustration. So that basically means that you can change the color and work it as any other shape in Illustrator. So as always, I started with a grid and had already written out some of the copy that I wanted in the design, or at least like placeholder. Usually I do this to fill some of the space already, otherwise it's all empty, and it's also great to know how much copy you have before you start designing. So I added my illustration in there and moved things around until I had a layout that I liked. And I used a bit of a messier sort of handwritten Chinese font because I felt it fit really well with the overall messier vibe of the illustration. And somehow the drawing was kind of begging for some color. So I tried to color it in some different ways, but it didn't really hit the spot when I used the red. So I just left it for that moment and came back to it later. And I wanted to reuse this little illustration that I came up with as a type of logo for the noodles. It's like a little guy wearing headphones while slurping noodles. I thought it was kind of cute. So I refined it a bit. And also put it on the soup and vegetable toppings packets. As I was designing, I wanted to check and see if it even looked good on a shirt. So I found this great Mockup bundle by Studio Init. It has the front and back of the shirt and a few other details, so it's really great for if you want to check it, the front and back design on the same garment. And I was looking for that for so long, so I was really happy that I found it. And I do this check quite a few times as I'm designing, because sometimes it can look really good on your artboard, but it will not look good on a garment. But in this case, I actually really liked what it looked like, though I felt the illustration could be just a bit bigger and the design could cover more of the space on the back of the shirt. So I just started shifting some things around to create a bit more space. As I was looking at it, I also felt that red wasn't working, so I tried green. I felt that could work really well, so I tried some of green shades. Also put it on the mock-up again to try it. And in the end, I felt that this lighter green was working really well. I like that it looked less harsh, but still makes an impact. It makes you want to take a closer look without being too much in your face, with the design being quite large as well. So that concludes the back design. Now onto the front. This is usually based on the back design for me, to tie it together and not be two separate things. So for the front, I really like the little illustration of the guy, so I put it on the front as well. And I did want to keep it quite simple, so I just added the brand name only and established year. Again, I tried it on the mock-up to check if it looked good, and I really liked it. It's very nice and minimal, but also unique, and it ties together really well with the design on the back. So here are the final designs. I really hope you like this process and also the result. You can head to the description to find the mockup that I used and for some other links and tips that I used in this video. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.